welcome to another week of Cooking with Kevin. Today we have a special treat. Special guest chef Brenna Archibald is going to return and show us one of her famed recipes, herbed lemon chicken. Brenna, let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you. How's it going, Kevin?
Very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent.
Perfect. Thank you so much for agreeing to come once again and give us one of your famous recipes. Your salad one is still a huge hit. We've been having so many people commenting through emails and letters and whatnot on how much it has just made their meals that much better.
Well, I'm so glad you all are enjoying it, and I can't wait to show you. One of my famous main dishes are herbed lemon chicken. It's so simple and so easy and so quick. One dish and you're done, so you can't hate it.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Well, where do we start?
Well, let's get our chicken breasts out.
Okay.
And we just got 4, supermarket whole chicken breasts, boneless, skinless. And basically you take them and we're gonna half them.
Okay.
So we're gonna put them on the board here.
All right.
And we're gonna come in and half them. And it doesn't matter which way you half them. You can do it hot dog style or hamburger.
Should I go this way?
That's perfect.
All right.
And we'll get all 4 of those cut up and ready to go.
Excellent. This is going to be delicious. As always, the meat came from the local Roth's Fresh Markets. That's the one store I love to get all my meats and fresh produce from.
And another great thing about this dish is you don't have to do the chicken breast. If you have chicken thighs, chicken wings, bone in, bone out, you can alter the recipe for time cooking. But I prefer the chicken breast, so we're going to do that one today.
So do we cook them in their thick form, or do we slice them down the middle as well?
We're going to keep them in their thick form.
Excellent. All
Our
right.
next step is we're going to take these chicken breasts before we transfer them anywhere, and we're going to salt and pepper them.
Okay.
I find it best to pre-season your meats just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take our salt and pepper. And you're just going to, just a dab each side, just enough. Not too much, because if we over salt, it will overpower some of the flavors we're going to put onto this chicken later. So each side, salt, and then pepper. I prefer more pepper over salt. Mm-hmm. If you like your food salty, feel free to salt it on up.
Yeah, pepper can be more of a safe bet. The only after effect it might have is a little bit more spicy, but most people can take spice over extra salty.
Exactly. We can kill the pepper a little, but we can't kill the salt. And once we're done with this side, we're going to flip the meat on the board and get ready. You want to salt and pepper these ones as well? Perfect. And just a nice little bit. Just enough. The nice thing is you can always add more salt later if your taste buds require.
Exactly. As you can see, I always prefer the freshly ground pepper.
As do
It
I.
tends to have a little bit more flavor.
There's just nothing better than fresh cracked corn. So whether it's corn on the cob or peppercorn, you can't hate it.
Exactly.
All right.
All right, so should we heat this pan up before we put the chicken in? Maybe on low, or?
We're gonna cook it all right here.
Oh, excellent.
Perfect.
Okay,
Our
all
one
right.
pan meal. So next step we need is we need to take some basic kitchen spray, and we're gonna spray the pan so nothing sticks. And whatever you prefer with cooking spray, they come in all kinds. You can use coconut oil, canola based, extra virgin, artificial. It's whatever you have in your home. You can also add extra oil to the recipe if you don't have any laying around.
As it is, we use the canola spray this side.
And then we're gonna place these all in here.
Okay.
Trying not to overlap them too much, but still leaving just a little space in between. Make sure they all fit.
Right.
Perfect. And now that we have that done, we're going to take our oil.
Oh.
That's
the pre-measured
perfect.
2 tablespoons.
We have 2 tablespoons of oil here, and we're just going to drizzle it over the top of them. And this is just kind of going to be the base for our flavor palette and kind of congeal it all together for us. Get that nice. You can get in there and rub it a little bit, make sure each piece has its own
So that will help it brown too.
Exactly.
Evenly.
So this is going to give us that nice base. The next thing we can do is we can come over and grab our lemons.
Okay.
And I prefer fresh lemons over, you know, bottled lemons. And I'm going to take a lemon and we're going to actually zest the outside first. Rinse them off. You don't want them to be too bitter. And you just kind of take them on your plane. And you're going to just lightly, just a little bit. It's about the zest of one lemon is what we want on them. This is going to give you that nice scent when you're cooking your chicken. It also keeps that little citric flavor. When you eat a lemon, you never eat the peel, but on your food it tastes amazing.
The smell of lemon, it's just delectable.
Perfect.
And with it being the peel, it won't be as tart, right? It'll just be more flavor on the chicken.
Although we will add the juice. Our next step is we're going to half the lemons.
Okay.
If you want to have that one for me. And I've already pre-rolled that lemon, so the best way to squeeze fresh lemon is to roll it on the counter. Kind of loosens everything up juice-wise. And then you're going to take your lemon, and you're just going to go over the top. I keep my finger here to catch any seeds. And you're just going to squeeze it on. It's going to equal about a half a cup of lemon juice from 2 lemons.
So you could also use lemon concentrate into that respect and just do about a half cup. As concentrate equals a lemon squeezed.
Exactly. And then would you like to do the other half there for me?
This.
Perfect.
Delicious.
Doesn't even smell like chicken. Perfect. And we'll do one more lemon in there.
Alright, should we do one of the mini ones?
And these are obviously pre-rolled again. So it's going to be plenty of lemon juice. It's going to give it a nice little kick with the herbs. Give it some zest. All right. Give your hands a little wash because we don't want to cross-contaminate some stuff after touching chicken.
Yeah.
The best part about the herb chicken, Kevin, is the herbs. Now you don't have to use the herbs I recommended. I prefer to use rosemary and parsley because it gives it a nice kick. I love rosemary and lemon, just the contrasting flavors taste wonderful together. But you can use basil, you can use dried if you don't have fresh available. Try and mix it up, work on the flavors. Another great one is oregano, parsley, and basil because it will give you more of an Italian taste. So we take a couple sprigs of our rosemary. The best way to do it is to take it off is you kind of just run your fingers down it. We don't want the stalk of the rosemary just because it's not going to give us the flavor we want. We just want the leaves.
Okay.
So you run your fingers down.
Is there any time that you can use the stock?
It's great for roasting chicken. Possibly if you're making the base of a soup, like soup stocks or anything, you can throw the whole piece in.
Okay.
But since we're cooking with it for people to actually eat, instead of just the flavor, this will be perfect. And we'll use about 3 stalks for this much chicken.
Okay.
So we should be perfect. All right. Get that all off on there. All right, and we have it all cut up on the board. This form is great too. I prefer it nice and roughly chopped on here. So I ball it up, and you just come over with your knife. Give it a nice little even chop.
How small do you want to get it when you're chopping it?
Almost to the size you would see chives in recipes. Not too small where it's almost powder-like, non-existent.
Yeah.
You still want it to be a primary in your recipe. So we're still leaving them kind of big. We'll get those nice and ready. All right, so we have
Perfect.
rosemary here. I'll put that to the side. And then our second herb on the recipe is our parsley. Parsley is great. We can use the stem. Today we can use the upper parts. I don't want to use the stalky parts. just because again we're cooking it, and if we use the stem it tends to get crunchy, so it's best to de-leaf them.
Okay, how many stalks do you want?
This one is going to vary. You want about the same amount of mass as you have over here, so it's probably going to be 6 to 8. We could be off.
Okay.
Just going to prim and prop them, making sure you don't get too much of that stocky long part. If you do find bad leaves, take them out. We don't want those nasty soggy ones, the wilting ones, or the browning ones. Make sure they're nice and fresh and green. And you should be able to smell that parsley.
There are multiple varieties of parsley. There's the Italian parsley and the traditional regular parsley. Does it matter which kind you use for this?
It does not matter.
Okay.
I prefer the Italian parsley over the regular just because it has a different flavor and taste.
that's what we have tonight. And the Italian parsley tends to have a larger leaf too, so you get a little bit more for your money, in my opinion.
Same thing again, we're gonna pile it up, balling it, making it into that nice pile. Make sure you curl your fingers under so we don't chop them, and just a gentle chop through these ones. These ones can stay a little bit bigger because they're a nice light leaf.
Exactly.
We'll come in and side chop it once.
It's smelling so good, that fresh parsley with the rosemary.
All right, and so we have our piles of herbs ready.
Okay.
We're gonna head on over back to our chicken, and we're gonna nicely dress our birds. So you can pick whichever one you'd like, Kevin, and we're just gonna pile them up on top, nice and evenly for each one. Making sure they're getting plenty. And these will nicely cook down for us and give the chicken a nice bold flavor. So our dish is looking a little green right now. And make sure that's all on there. But last but not least, for our chicken, we're gonna nicely put a little chicken broth, not on top. We wanna make sure our herbs stay okay. So make sure you're pointing it to the side so it fills up the basin of it, so it actually cooks the chicken in it.
That is very good.
And as you can see in our pan, with this much chicken, you kind of have to go around and make sure every side is getting it. There we go. And so actually, we're all ready. This chicken is going to go straight into the oven at 400 degrees for about 30 minutes or until the chicken's done.
All right, so we'll put it here in the oven. Set the timer. Excellent. Oh, I cannot wait to try that dinner. It looks amazing.
Oh, wait for the smell to kick in.
All right, well, let's do the side dish to go with it. We're gonna do freshly steamed broccoli and carrots, light butter sauce.
Did you know those were my 2 favorite vegetables?
Really?
Yes.
It just worked out. I am very glad. All right, well, what we're gonna do is that we'll go right over here.
All right.
And we'll chop up these vegetables. Now what I've done is I've peeled them because that skin is not good. It's usually pretty dirty, rather bumpy. You want a smooth texture for your carrots. And what we're going to do now is follow this guy. We're going to cut it kind of at a slant, 1/4 inch, kind of a little fancier that way.
Nice angled slice.
Yeah. Plus, they cook a little bit better when they're not as thick. So if while I'm cutting that, if you want to start another one, here, would this one work
Perfect.
for you? Perfect. All right. I'll put it right over here. And while we're cutting these carrots, we're going to send it over to Kelsey. She has some interesting facts about herbs. Kelsey?
Oh, hi! You got me gardening. You know, herbs have a lot more uses than flavoring your delicious meals at home. For instance, if you chew on fennel seeds, they actually help with bad breath. And did you know that basil is a prime ingredient in Italian cooking that actually has antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties in it, and it contains a wealth of nutrients for you. So, thank you for coming and gardening with me, but have fun cooking with Kevin.
Alright, so we are now onto the broccoli. And what we're doing is we're doing florets that are about that size. You don't want them much larger than about a normal circle. If they are any larger, just cut them in half. Excellent. We'll probably have to cook these in portions because the steamer basket, unfortunately, is not that big. But I'll bring it over and we'll get it.
Are we doubling the recipe right now, or just the whole?
This is for yeah, this is a doubled recipe for sure. You know, normally you would only do like one broccoli crown and maybe 1 to 2 carrots if you're just feeding like 2 to 3 people. But if you're expecting more people, you want to do a little bit more. And I like to put the broccoli at the base since it takes a little longer to cook with these stems, and then you can kind of just intermix the carrots within it.
Perfect. It already looks delicious. The colors are just wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, the more vibrant the colors, the more rich in vitamins they are. That's my little tester for them.
Now, is that why we're steaming them and not boiling them, so we don't lose all the nutrients?
Yes. Yep.
Very good.
Steaming keeps the nutrients in there. Yeah, so I put in about 1/4 cup of water in the pan down at the bottom. And we'll put the top on now. And we're going to put it to about medium heat and allow the water to just boil underneath and put the steam up, cooking it until a fork can penetrate it easily. That means it's ready. So while these are cooking, then we're going to make the light buttery sauce.
Perfect.
And we'll do the sauce, so yeah, bring it over here. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to first put in 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil.
Perfect. Just pour it in the pan there.
Excellent. Then we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter.
Okay.
Perfect. And we'll turn on the heat to about 3, low to medium, right in the middle there. And melt it until it's fully mixed in. As you can tell, the main ingredient is the olive oil. But then there's the little butter splashed in to give it a little bit of flavor, but without all of the calories or the fat. It will still have a little bit of fat, but some people prefer to do an all butter sauce. I like to do half and half. And then once that's melted and combined, then we'll add these fresh herbs. Well, except for the basil. The basil I am choosing to do dry this time. The basil at the market did not look at prime. It must not have been a good time for it growing season-wise, but we have fresh parsley and rosemary carried over from the delicious chicken dish that we are waiting on in the oven.
It smells good.
So we'll get this melting here. With this sauce, you don't drizzle it over the complete vegetables. You drizzle it over the vegetables as you serve them. That way each portion has all the flavor. Because if you do it over the whole batch, some just don't get the sauce on them. And some just can't have dairy. So that way you can keep it a dairy-free, gluten-free meal for those that need it.
Very nice.
Yeah. And sometimes I've even thrown in some garlic before into the sauce, so that's always an alternative. And you can also put a little oregano in it as well if you want to make it like Brenna said, have a little bit more of an Italian zing to it. But it is a delicious sauce. The herbs they just come all together in it for sure. Perfect, it's looking good. So now we're going to add some of this fresh herbs. So here's the parsley. Put a little bit more. Here's the rosemary.
It just looks perfect.
Then we'll put some basil. Perfect. I always like to do a little bit of a hand go by smell when seasoning a sauce such as this. it can give you a good idea of what it's going to taste like. Perfect. It is looking excellent. Good consistency. I'll check the vegetables. They're starting to get there little by little. Probably another 4 minutes or so. Usually it takes 10 to 12 minutes, depending on how full you have it. We have quite a full load here, so it's probably going to be closer to 15 minutes until the fork can penetrate it. So,
well, everything is just coming together so
yeah,
far.
as soon as the chicken is finished, we'll be ready to serve it up on a platter for our plate presentation. And while our guest chef is finishing up the dinner, we'll start the dessert. We're going to do what I call the delectable rhubarb cake. And what we're going to do is we'll start off with 1 cup of sugar, and we'll add 1/3 cup of extra light olive oil. And we're going to mix it until it's well creamed here. So you'll mix it until it's somewhat smooth. It's going to be grainy because of the sugar texture, but you want to just get it well mixed. There we go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 egg to it. It will look almost kind of like snow in there. Alright, and then now we're going to beat this in. Until it becomes smooth. It'll look almost like a cake batter. Perfect. You just do it until most of the clumps have been taken out through the mixing. Now we're going to head over to the buttermilk right here. Each of these have to be independent in their own bowls until the last stage. So we're going to do 1 cup of buttermilk. I had to separate it into 2 different dishes. And then we'll add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And then you'll mix it in until the vanilla gets completely mixed in. It will kind of give it a little bit of a creamish color. Alright, perfect. Okay, so then we'll set that aside, and we're going to make the flour mixture now. So we're going to take 2 cups of regular flour, and we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Then we'll mix it in. Alright. As we'll mix, what we're going to do is we're going to add, we're going to alternate from both of these bowls and add small increments from each while it's mixing. Just a little bit at a time of each. This allows for the cake to be fluffier, have a lot of moisture in it. You don't want it too high of speed because it will splatter everywhere. You will have some more of the flour mixture than the buttermilk. So don't be worried if you're still putting in flour mixture when you're out of the buttermilk. Put in the last amount of flour there. And we'll just mix it until it comes to a creamy looking dough. turn it up to try to get some of the edges mixed in there. Perfect. There we go. So you just mix it just long enough to where there's no clumps left. But you don't want to overmix it because it can make it get a little bit drier and whatnot. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to get off what we can from this mixer head. And you'll get a pan that's about 9 by 13. A traditional cake pan. And we're going to just kind of drizzle it in there. Try to make it even. Don't worry about the look of it initially. You'll smooth it out with the spatula after you're finished. We still got to add the rhubarb too. For the rhubarb, it's best if it's fresh, but if it's not in season, you can get really good frozen rhubarb, and it's just a matter of thawing it out, and you won't really be able to tell the difference. It just takes a little bit longer for it to cook if you put it in more in a frozen state. Alright, I'm going to get the rhubarb here. So it's about 2 cups, a little over actually. You want to do generous cups so that there's enough to go around in here. Just kind of mix it in there. You want there to be rhubarb in every area of the cake. See how I'm kind of pushing the rhubarb down to the bottom too, and then just finishing off the corners here, smoothing it out. The secret of adding the rhubarb later and when it's in the cake pan is that you won't get your cake turning completely red. You want it to still have the more white, yellow, regular cake color, just with the rhubarb spliced in the sides. Alright, so now we are going to make the topping. So what I've done is I've melted about 1/4 tablespoon of butter here. I'm going to put it into this bowl here. We're going to add 1/4 cup of brown sugar and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'll borrow this spoon here. And you'll mix it until well mixed. It will be crumbs, but that's what it's supposed to be. This is called the brown sugar cinnamon crumble topping. It will make for a delicious crunch on top. Just keep mixing it. Get out most of the big clumps because you want it to be a fine crumble. Sometimes brown sugar will try to clump up. Just gotta have patience and just keep pounding it out. Alright. So what we're going to do is, I like to do it with my hand. You're just going to kind of crumble it on top. Get this out of the way here. So this cake is a delicious pleaser. It can be eaten as is, or you can even drizzle some whipping cream or half and half over the top if you like more of the bread pudding type style. Some even prefer to add a little bit of vanilla or sugar to their whipping cream to add a little bit extra flavor to it. And then now what we're going to do is I've preheated the oven to 350 degrees. And we're going to put this in uncovered and let it cook for about 35 minutes or until a toothpick can enter and come out without any batter on it. Alright, so we'll get that cooking for 35 minutes, and while it's baking, we'll send it over to Tim for a little hints on rhubarb history.
Thank you, Kevin. Now we'll talk about a little bit more about rhubarb. I'm going to go a little bit more in detail of how it came out in the U.S., some information about how some people found out it was toxic, and a little bit of just general information to help you guys know more about rhubarb. It's a very interesting fruit. So, as many of you know, this is what rhubarb looks like, but this is without the leaves are already taken off. It's like a green and reddish color. So, in 1947, the United States determined that rhubarb is to be known as a fruit, not a vegetable. And being in the United States, it seems like we always determine the final outcome of of a situation. So it's not considered a vegetable, it's more of a fruit, because that's what the Americans were using more rhubarb as a fruit than a vegetable. And so if you see it in vegetable aisle, then it should be in the fruit section. And so moving on to the toxin information. I don't want to scare y'all. You're not gonna die or collapse or anything. But in World War I is when they determined that the leaves on the rhubarb were actually poisonous, and that's all what they had for food sources back then. And so they were wondering why all these people were dying, and they ended up figuring out that they had rhubarb as a snack in between fighting and in camp. So that's how they determined that rhubarb was a little bit poisonous. And so moving on to how harvesting works, we usually have two late harvests, one usually from April to late May, and then June to July. And that's usually in Oregon and Washington's standards for harvesting. And then other places it's usually a little bit later in the summer because they have warmer temperatures, climates to produce more, to keep it fresh off the stalks. But as soon as you harvest it, you can eat it right away. Don't have to wait for any processing or any sitting out or anything. Just as soon as you get it home, cut it right up, make a pie, whatever you feel like having with rhubarb, you're fresh, ready to go. So rhubarb first settled in America in the 1820s in Massachusetts and Maine, and it just moved westward with the European settlers as they moved west, and it just expanded westward as the settlers kept moving west. And so just to finish it up, just hope you have all fun with the rhubarbs, and I'll send it back to Kevin back in the kitchen.
It is around 150 degrees.
150, 160.
Which is where you want it, because once you bring it out, it will continue to cook when it's in the hot juices.
And we're gonna plate these guys right here for dinner. Another great thing is if we were having this with rice, you could serve the nice drippings at the base here, the lemon juice, and the chicken broth mixture with the herbs on the side, and you could drizzle it over rice. You could thicken it up with a little flour to make a nice creamy sauce for pasta. Those are just some other ideas. And if you'd like, you don't have to bake the chicken. The chicken can actually marinate in the fridge for 30 minutes in all the mixings we've made in here. And you can grill it. You can put it on the barbecue and cook it till it's done there as well. So there's multiple ways you can do this, but if you're looking for that one pan dish, This will be that perfect one.
Makes for a quick meal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another nice thing I like to do is serve each piece with its own little lemon slice right on top.
Makes it look very fancy.
Keep it nice and fresh and simple. We'll place those all on there. And voila.
Perfect. All right, so we will now bring this right over here. And then I'll bring over the freshly baked rhubarb cake.
That looks fabulous.
And we'll cut a slice of it here. We'll bring over a plate and do our famous Cooking with Kevin presentation here.
So we'll have to do a piece of chicken here.
So you'll notice how the rhubarb is layered in on the side there. And then the brown sugar butter topping kind of just soothed down into the top.
Looks fabulous.
And we'll put some of the vegetables right on the side right there. Get a mix of the green and orange there. Perfect. And
Oh, we can't forget the sauce.
we'll drizzle some of the light butter herb sauce.
This looks amazing.
And there you have it. We have a delicious herb lemon chicken done by our guest chef Brenna Archibald, and a rhubarb cake and a fresh side of broccoli and carrots steamed with a light butter sauce. Well, that will do it. Thank you so much for coming once again, Brenna.
Oh, no
I hope to have you
problem.
back on the show soon,
Of course.
for sure.
One thing, do we get to taste it?
Oh yes, yes, we can taste it.
What are we gonna try first?
Let's put it back just in case. And we can
Perfect.
taste the chicken here.
Chicken should be pretty tender.
Oh yeah, look at that. It's perfect white.
Still
inside.
juicy too.
Yeah, it's still juicy. Oh my goodness.
I know.
That is delicious.
It's just splendid.
Very good. It's still very moist. This is going to be delicious. And as always, these recipes will be online on the webpage under the Guest Chef Recipes tab. So, thank you very much.
Thank you so
and,
much.
And we'll see you next week. Remember, it's not a regular episode. We'll all be answering questions that you'll send in to me. Thanks again, and keep cooking with Kevin.